Hi everyone, Dave here, back with another video. Back in the review corner because today we're reviewing Songs to Make You Smile. This is a one-shot, one-off manga by, hopefully I pronounced this correctly, Natsui Takaya, the creator of, or the mangaka behind Fruits Basket. I've never read Fruits Basket. I don't know if any of these stories relate. I don't think they do. I've heard great things about Fruits Basket. It's an anime or a manga if I decide to read it. One that I want to check out at some point. I just haven't had the opportunity. Um, but this is some of, some side stories and, just some kind of one-off stories. So this video is going to be split into a few parts. It's all going to be in one video, but a few different parts because each story, is their own thing. The book itself is split into a few different parts. So, but from the overview, they all deal with some form of music, some form of love, some form of growth. They're all very grounded, in a way, just very beautiful and kind of pure stories about just coping with, potentially trauma, other hardships throughout life, and being able to express yourself through, music being one of them, and just being able to, grow as a person and, find connections with other people as well. There's, a lot of stories about, finding connections with one another and growing and learning and there's a lot of romance in here, and there's a lot of falling in love and stuff like that, so that's very cute. So yeah, we're gonna jump into the first part, which is the first short story, which is titled Songs to Make You Smile. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, so tackling the first story, which is also titled Songs to Make You Smile. This is a story about coping. It's a story about growing. It's a story about these are characters, the two main characters. There's a boy and a girl main character, and both of them are essentially hated for being who they are for no reason. The male character, he kind of has this resting bitch face, for lack of a better word, but it's this like resting angry face, and everybody assumes he's this crazy guy, and they judge him just based off of how he looks. When really he's a very sensitive guy. There's one scene where there were footprints on the ceiling, and he's kind of just staring at him, and everybody's like, oh my god, he's going to do something, he's crazy. But really, he's just thinking, why the heck are there footprints on the ceiling? That doesn't make any sense. And it's true. Why the hell are there footprints on the ceiling? But people just assume things of him based off of the way he looks. And then the female character, very similar story. This girl was bullied growing up, and then that caused her to become more reserved and more shelled and more contained, and she kind of holds her head down and kind of just does her own thing, and people think, oh, what has she got going on? Why does it stick up her butt? It pisses me off. And that's yet again another situation where they're judged just how they act or how they look. And it's an unfortunate scenario that happens way too often in today's society, especially in schools. And these are two characters that bond over music. The guy and his two buddies, they have a band together, and the dude is the lead singer of this band, and he has this beautiful angelic voice, and he wants to see the girl smile through his music, and he grows through his music, and he wants to help her grow through the music. And it's this very cute, it's this very heartfelt story of coming to terms with the fact that people suck and people are going to judge you regardless. But as long as you're happy with yourself, and as long as you can find happiness in your life, that's all that matters. And that's something that I personally need to deal with myself, is the fact that things outside of your control are gonna happen, and that's the unfortunate reality of life. But when you find that thing, whether it be, songs, whether it be music, whether it be anything, if you find that thing that genuinely makes you happy and brings great purpose to your life, you can change your outlook on life. You can change the way that you, go about things. You can change, um, not everything needs to be terrible, I guess, if that makes any sense. And I think it's very beautiful. I think music in general is such a great art form. It's such a great way to express yourself and express emotion. And the fact that it brought these two characters together, who had a very similar circumstance of, again, being judged and hated just for things that they can't control, things out of their control, I think is very heartwarming. I think it's very pure. I think it's a story that a lot of people can relate to. So the actual, just trying to, I don't want to spoil anything, and these are very short stories. So, this is just the first story here, and then we got, I think like 4 or 5 more throughout the rest of it. So they're very short, self-contained stories. So I don't want to go too deep into the actual details because I don't want to spoil anything for you, because I really do recommend Songs to Make You Smile. If you want a review, an overall review, right now, I recommend it. It's very cute. This was what I found in my Five Below manga haul. I did a video on that a while back. This was, $5 at Five Below, and it's worth it. But obviously, as the video goes on, I'll break down each other story a little deeper. But the first story, Songs to Make You Smile, is very pure. It's a very good kind of kickoff to this manga. It kind of shows what it's going to be about. It's about these people coming together, falling in love over not only their shared love of music, but their shared love of, and their shared experiences, rather. And, the fact that, we can go through similar things, and regardless of how different we may be, there may be something out there that can bring us together. And I think that's just a very pure and important message. It's a very good story to kick off. And the next story is called Ding Dong, which is a very fun title. And we'll get into that next. So, yeah. Okay, and we're back. Part 2 of Songs to Make You Smile was a story called Ding Dong, and despite having a silly title, is probably one of the deepest stories that I've read in a manga in a long time. It's a very rough and very serious short story about a girl coping not only with the loss of her father, but also with this new mother figure that has popped up in her life. So, again, like I said with the first story, and like I'm going to do with the rest of the stories, I'm trying my best to avoid any concrete spoilers, because I, so far, really, like I said, am recommending Songs to Make You Smile. So I don't want to spoil anything, but so this girl, her father passes away, and only 3 months before his passing had remarried. So she was just getting used to this other person in her life, and then her father passes away. So now it's her and this other woman who is essentially still a stranger, or at least someone that is still very new to her. And, she starts to feel alone. She starts to feel some resentment towards her father, because her father was very cold and not really there for her, but he showed love to this new woman. And and she also feels like she's a burden because to this new mother figure in her life, because it's like, okay, you barely know me. Why are you still here? What, what are you gaining out of this? What are you doing? And this new mother figure genuinely loves her and genuinely wants to be there for her, wants to continue being in her life. And she has, a friend who, kind of helps her out a little bit and, talks her through some things. And she keeps bringing up this, like the thought of, like, okay, my dad didn't care about me. And she keeps bringing up this idea of proof. I need proof. I need some form of tangible evidence that he actually cared and actually, gave a shit, and again, avoiding spoilers, but, she goes through this journey, and it's, set in the backdrop of the holidays of Christmas. It's not like a big theme, like this story could have taken place in the middle of, July, Christmas in July. I didn't do that on purpose. I'm just a comedic genius. But it could have taken place at any point in the year. Like, Christmas isn't a big theme, but I feel like it really helps this story because Christmas, for some people, especially, it's a very family-centric holiday. Your, society or Hallmark says you're supposed to be with family. But when you feel like you don't have that family, it's very hard to, like, feel at home. It's very hard to feel at peace. It's very hard to feel that connection. So I think the backdrop of it also being Christmas, lends heavily to this feeling of, like, loneliness and feeling out of place, and to the point where you aren't really sure what to do with yourself. And I feel like these stories have had really good writing because this was super short. I mean, again, these are all short stories, but this one was, was like, let me just, do a rough estimate here. It was like this long. I don't know the amount of pages off the top of my head, but it was this many pages. That's like maybe a chapter in a regular, full manga. But they're able to tell such a compelling story. This mangaka, Natsuki, is able to tell such a compelling story in just a short amount of time, and I find that to be really great writing and really compelling writing, and that this feeling of loneliness and this feeling of not belonging resonates with me personally, because these are things that I have and continue to deal with. So it, Ding Dong was a very good story. I don't know why it's called Ding Dong. If someone knows, let me know. And maybe it was just a silly title to offset the fact that it was kind of a darker tale. There are little notes in here by the author that I neglected to read, so maybe that explains it. But I really enjoyed Ding Dong. Just another great little story in the Songs to Make You Smile book. Again, so far this book has had a lot of heart, has had a lot of, like, true, real emotion and real human stories. So I'm excited to keep reading. And the next tale is called Voice of Mine. Voice of Mine. I know it's backwards. I'm sorry. I can't afford a camera. So I got to use my phone. But yeah, Voice of Mine, coming up next on Dragon Ball Z. Okay, so the third story in Songs to Make You Smile was called Voice of Mine. It's very similar to the first Songs to Make You Smile story, in the fact that it's about characters who are maybe judged or disliked for things out of their control, and use music and their shared experiences to bond and to grow and heal. So this story is about a violinist. He's like this kind of prodigy type guy, and a lot of the other students in this school that he goes to are jealous of him because he gets all this special treatment and everything because he's very good, but also his parents are famous musicians and they're off on tour. So, he might feel a little lonely, because his parents are away, doing their music. But a lot of the students at the school resent him and are jealous of him because of his, I guess, status. But he has the ability to back it up. But a lot of people don't want to accept that. They just want to say, "Oh, you got here because your parents, or you whatever. You didn't work hard." But he really did work hard, and his music, brings a lot of heart and a lot of joy to not only himself but to this other female student that he meets, and and he's trying to differentiate himself from his parents by saying, no, this is my sound is different. I worked hard. I worked on my own sound. I'm not just copying my parents. I didn't just start, I don't get special treatment just because they're famous musicians. I'm my own person. I did my own thing. I did my own sound. And this story was a little more personal to me because, it's hard to differentiate yourself from past experiences. I grew up with parents. Well, my mother is a great saint of a person, but my father and I had and have a very tumultuous relationship. So, and maybe it's not in the same vein of like, oh, I've got to differentiate myself because my family is so great and I've got to set myself apart, but it's mainly taking an experience and being able to separate yourself from it to be like, no, this is who I am. I'm not that. I'm not any of that. I'm me. And also just the fact that I played viola for like 7 or 8 years, and this is a story about, violins, and the female character plays viola. So I thought that was, kind of nice. Be like, shout out to my former instrument. I kind of wish I kept with viola because I did enjoy it, but at the time in my life, it just really didn't work out. But anyway, that's not at all important to the story. But yeah, it's a story that is about, not only separating yourself and being your own person, but also, people are going to hate on you, and people are going to, project their own insecurities onto you, and they're going to try to, especially with this character, they're going to say, oh, well, he's only good because of this. It's like, you obviously got something else going on that you just need to, say that this person is bad because they obviously are just better than you. And obviously the fact that he's a first year and a lot of the other characters that hate on him are third years, there's that whole dichotomy there. But yeah, I think this one had a lot of heart. Not as deep as Ding Dong, but very similar to the self-titled Songs to Make You Smile story. Where it's music focused. I thought all of these stories were about music, but so far only 2 of them have been, which is fine. But I think I mentioned that in a previous part to this video, but they're not all about music, but some of them are. But anyway, yeah, so I don't know if there's much unique I can say. Obviously, I don't, again, for the millionth time, don't want to spoil anything. But a lot of the same points that I had in the first part to this video kind of ring true here because it's a very similar story. But yeah, Voice of Mine, very good, hits a little home, a little heavier, has slightly different themes, but very similar to that first story. So the final story is called Double Flower, and we'll get to that next. There's also a bonus chapter for, what's it called? Let me find the title here. I apologize. Come on, if I can get there. What the heck? Where is this page? I'm sorry. Tsubasa, Those with Wings, bonus fun chapter. Princess Dark Black is like this bonus chapter at the end here. I may cover that. We'll see what happens, but But the next story is Double Flower, and that is coming up next. All right, so we are back talking about the final story in Songs to Make You Smile, Double Flower. I have to refresh my memory on the name of it, even though I just finished it 2 seconds ago. um, Double Flower is a story that tackles. It's probably the most like complex out of the four stories with its themes. Almost a little too complex. It's a story that at the end of it, I'm thinking, wow, I really would have liked to see a whole show of that or a whole manga of that. I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. Um, so if that ever gets made or possibly has been made into a full thing, I would be interested in reading about it. Because it not only tackles the themes that we saw in some of the previous stories of people not liking you for your interests or not liking you just because you live your life a certain way that might be different from the norm, but it also talks about like the familial relationships that come with that, like how your family may react, not just other people, but how your own personal family might react to those changes in your life. And it also very lightly touches on like gender norms and some of that stuff as well. So just a little background. So it's about a guy who is really into making quilts. He loves knitting or quilting, and he's just he's an artist at heart, and he enjoys that process. Um, he went to this private school with obviously that age old, like, oh, you're going to go to private school, you're going to go to college, you're going to get this job and whatever. And he said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to make quilts. And his family disowned him, as you do, right? So now he works at this shop and makes quilts for them as well. And the girl who also works at the shop, whose parents own the shop, like he has a crush on her, she has a crush on somebody else, and then light spoilers, her crush turns out to in turn like someone else, so they find that solace in each other, being like, she's like, I don't know how to deal because I like somebody who likes somebody else, and my man's over here like, yeah, same, like, but it's that sort of, and then also throw his niece into the mix, who runs away from home, and is staying with them, and also I'm not a big fan of the little brat character just being a little shit. Like, his niece is kind of a little brat, and I get that, like, sometimes kids are written to, kind of tell it like it is, or kind of be a little more to the point, because, like, an adult may say, may dance around the subject because, they're, afraid of breaking the social norms or afraid of causing any awkward tension. But a kid will just, cut right to the chase because they don't know any better, which is understandable, and that happens. Kids can be brutal. But, like, this kid is just a little shit, honestly. But anyway, she's a part of it, and she kind of, through her bluntness, kind of helps him, she's a little rude, but in a way kind of helps him realize, like, you're doing what you're doing, and it may be different, but it's what you want to do, and it's what you're passionate about. And because he, like, thinks about taking up basketball to try to impress this other girl, but it's like, you don't need to do that. That's what quilting is what you enjoy. Show that you love this thing, and then she might appreciate, someone who is passionate about something. It doesn't have to be sports or basketball or anything, but, yeah, and then, and it kind of culminates in all of these stories had some little bit to do with romance, and it culminates in a romantic moment. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think, like I said, there's Double Flower probably had the most to unpack. There's a lot of different themes going on. There's a lot of different stories that that were written very well to fit into, yet another tiny chapter. But I would have loved to see kind of a full, spiel, kind of a full thing of what the story of Double Flower could potentially turn into. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say that's like super spoiler free. Um, and also not a lot to say that I haven't said before about the other stories in this book. I think that's why they're all together, is because they all share very similar themes. They may branch out in their own ways, but at the end of the day, these were all stories about loving yourself, loving another person, bonding over certain things, and just coming to terms with the fact that, hey, this is my life. I enjoy my life. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I'm happy being who I am. And it may have taken somebody else to help me see that, or I may have to be the person to help someone else see that. But at the end of the day, this is what I'm about. So yeah, Songs to Make You Smile was a very charming, positive read. There's, like I said in the last part, a bonus chapter of Tsubasa Those with Wings. I'm not really going to bother talking about that. I read it. It was pretty good. But it's not really important to what I'm talking about here. So that concludes my review, or I guess discussion, of Songs to Make You Smile. A one-off of short stories, and it was very good. I'd recommend it. $5 at Five Below. Good purchase.